Welcome to Tya Talk.
We're live.
We're here to talk some Tya.
My favorite subject.
And the topic of the day, and as usual, I'm sure we'll bounce all over the place, but the key topic of the day is talking about toxic relationships. And if you follow pop culture at all, which I'm following less and less and less of it all the time, but I know that there's terminology out there that we see used over and over and over again. And one of my least favorite words, because it's so incredibly judgmental, is toxic. You hear about toxic relationship, toxic work environments, toxic masculinity, all of these things that people label as toxic. And the stream has said that when we are experiencing something that we believe is toxic, it's a reflection of our own vibration. So, from a Tya perspective, how do we get into identifying how we co-create a toxic situation or a toxic relationship?
Yeah. I was thinking of that the other day after you had brought the topic to light, David, because I don't like the word toxic. It's, of course, getting into non-judgment, to me, it sounds so judgmental now, but I know I've used the term in the past because it was a buzzword, right? Everybody talks about, oh, it's so toxic. So I was thinking about that and trying to figure out a better way to describe it. And the only thing I came up with was being down the spiral. And that's not even a word for it, but it's the vibration that you are when you're down your spiral. You're not the same happy person. For me, oftentimes it was anger. And so I was trying to come up with a better word, and maybe you can help me, because when I am angry, and as my kids would say, spewing hate fire, you're not the same person, and it's hurtful.
Right, you're behaving differently in a lower vibrational state. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what, to me, toxic is a description of something that is habitually low vibe. So if you go to work and everybody's always complaining at work, about everything, and I have in my corporate job, I used to visit multiple retail locations, and a retail store is a very high pressure environment. A retail store with commissioned salespeople is an extremely high pressure environment because you've got this whole the majority of the staff was the sales staff that I was dealing with, and they were on commission. So any and everything every single month they're up against a number to hit to make their income. And that is very stressful for a lot of people. And then, of course, when everything's not just exactly right and they're not having a good month, then they're complaining. So we always had people that were constant complainers on a staff. And then we had other people that just ignored all of it and shut it down and did their thing without it really impacting them. But the funny thing is that the ones that would label it toxic were the ones that were doing most of the complaining. They were sort of driving, and then they were always complaining about everyone's so negative here. And it was so funny because I just remember sitting there thinking, well, yeah, if you looked in a mirror lately, because all you do is complain. Every time I'm here, you're just complaining about everything. And nothing is ever your fault. And I used to tell my leadership team that the people that see themselves as victims, I have found, are the most dangerous people in terms of a work environment, to use that example, because they take no responsibility for anything. And once somebody believes that they're a victim in some way, they feel like they have license to react any way they want. And so that created a lot of problems. And it creates problems in romantic relationships and families and all sorts of scenarios. So when I hear somebody labeling something as toxic, my first question is, are they recognizing their own toxicity in being part of that creation? Because if you're not vibrationally aligned with it, you're not experiencing it. So it's not like, oh, I'm in high vibe all the time and I'm just over here watching all of them do their low vibe stuff. And, that's very judgmental in and of itself. And we talk about as soon as you start, judging the matrix, you're right back in it. Well, that's a clear sign of the matrix. The matrix teaches us it's not our fault. We have no power. We have no control. Everyone's out to get us. The theme of the day, and it's been the theme probably forever, but the wealthy are taking advantage of everybody, and if you're not one of them, then you're being taken advantage of, and demonizing people. And there's no healing power in demonizing people. I can tell you that. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that is so true when you think about it. I like that perspective that you just brought, because truly, we've all done it. Got into that complaining mode, right? I can't believe so and so said this to me, or And so I do like, for myself, the complaining mode versus being toxic. I'm just in taking part in that judgmental complaining mode. It's not my fault. Poor me. So and so did this to me. The government's, always taking my money. I mean, whatever you want to complain about. And so I like that perspective, because I think we've all been in a work environment, as you just explained. I remember when I worked in the hospital years and years ago, and I would go into the break room, and all the nurses and hospital staff were in the break room, having their coffee or whatever, and it was always complaining about whatever was going on that day. And I know I would get caught up in that as well. My frustrations.
The matrix is very seductive.
Mm-hmm.
It's very
It
easy
is
to get
very
seductive. Negative narrative. Misery loves company, right?
Yeah.
So I have to
Yes,
give you
exactly.
an example of how detuning works so well, because I am. If you've been watching the lives and stuff, I'm living in an Airbnb right now with Michael and the dogs, because we bought a house, we're remodeling, and we're remodeling everything. There's very little of the old house. It's not a full gut, but it's very close to that. So everything is changing. So there's a lot of, we're far along into the project now. There's a lot of detail work, a lot of finished work happening. And so there's a lot of tile and a lot of little details of things like that. And I'm having to really watch it every single day, because I can tell you that every single day I go over there and something is wrong. Something is not up to par. And I started calling other people yesterday to come in and start, kind of bidding other parts of this job, because I'm thinking that maybe it's time to sort of, part company with the current contractor. And I like the current contractor, but he wants to get it done fast. And I love that he's fast. We're turning around a pretty major remodel in a very little amount of time, really, because he works so fast. He has a big crew, and they get in, and they kind of ram through and get it done, but it's not the attention to detail that we want. So I can slip into that judgment of him really fast. And I had, today is Wednesday? Well, Monday I went and talked to the counter fabricator. He did not communicate to the counter fabricator the things that we wanted done with and it would have been a big mistake, like a $20,000 mistake, if they had done this countertop wrong. And so I fixed that. And then Tuesday I go to the house, and they're closing up a wall, and I wanted wiring moved before they closed up the wall, and he didn't tell them that. So it's like I stay ahead of it. I catch it, which I guess is my own manifestation. But I started to really go down my spiral yesterday, not down into anger or anything like that, just down into, maybe it's time to bring some other people in. And I realized that, we're so far along with this guy that even if I choose to do that, which I'm still considering, I need to detune the judgment of him. And so I did. In my meditation this morning, 4 a.m., I had a 7 a.m. meeting with him at the house. I detuned the judgment. Like, I need to focus on the positive. I need to work with him. We're too far down the path. If I tried to bring somebody else in, the whole project would come to a halt. We'd be stuck in Airbnb for another month, which we don't want to be. And so I detuned him. And then I show up this morning, and I'm not joking. He had his entire crew there. He was in the best mood. He was very open to everything I asked him to do and change and fix. So I was like, okay, that was a pretty good. That was a pretty good.
Look at what you created.
Yeah, because I was talking to him yesterday. I bought these special little tiles, and they're little pyramids. I'm all into the pyramid, right? Well, there's a pyramid theme in this house. So I found these little copper pyramid tiles, and they go around the box of the fireplace in the family room. And I can visualize
Yep.
very, very well. I can visualize how cool that's going to look when we have these little copper pyramids lining up all the way around. Well, when they installed them, they were sloppy and they chopped the top off of some of the pyramids. I'm like, no, you don't take the point off, you take the
Oh
bottom off. It was one of those things I didn't think I needed to be that specific and tell them that, but they did. They chopped the top off the pyramid. Like the top is the good part of the pyramid. I mean, we don't want the base,
no.
we want the top. So anyway, so when I was telling him that on the phone, because I sent him pictures, I'm like, we've got to fix this before you put grout in. And he like is sighing. Oh, he sighed on the phone. And I'm like, dude, you're making a lot of money on this job. And, these are little things that you need to do right. And he knows he needs to do them right. So, because I've already been like this on everything else, whenever anything's sloppy, I make him fix it. So I don't know why this was such a surprise, but I did the detuning work. And then this morning I got a whole different version of him.
Wow.
Whole different version, whole crew there, game plan for everything. He was completely open to all my little punch list stuff. It was a nice meeting. And then I got home and I was driving into the neighborhood where we're staying. Michael was driving out and he said he was worried that I came back so quick. He thought maybe the whole meeting was just downhill and I just left. And I said, no, the meeting was great. We walked through. He agreed to everything. He was in a good mood. He didn't sigh. He didn't moan. He didn't push back. He just agreed to do everything. So, it was interesting. It's so powerful to detune anything that you create as a transgressor. And he was definitely a
Right.
transgressor for me. Definitely becoming a transgressor.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I love that, and I love the power of it because I experienced that too in my life. And I was just thinking, what a great tool to simply take a moment before you do go into your work environment, if it is that type of environment, um, that you feel, that you get caught up in the complaining and all that, to take that moment, 2 minutes before you walk into your office, to breathe and ground yourself and set the intention that that you are going to stay in your happiness and your joy, and find things to appreciate, because I
Yeah, if
do.
you're really doing that practice without fail, it's going to work. I've never seen it not
Yes.
work.
No. And
I
the
think what
you'll
happens is we slip back into get it done mode, and then we move into a situation, then
yeah,
it's not going the way that we want, and we fail to realize, I could have done a little pre-paving vibrationally and had a completely different experience.
right, and adjust it even throughout the day. Um, I just think back before I knew my Tya tools, there were days that I didn't want to get caught up in the um, office complaining gossip, um, for whatever reason. So I just wouldn't go into the break room. I'd go in and get my lunch, and then I would take a walk outside and just try to, separate myself physically from it, because I didn't have the tools to set my mindset then. I knew I just didn't want to be a part of it, because it didn't feel good. And so instead of having to separate yourself from it, if you change your vibration, your mindset, you actually can raise the vibe of the entire office.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. There's
that's so
another little aspect too of this type of it, and I'll go back to the same example.
yeah.
When I do talk to him, I'm never nasty or angry or mean. I just don't go there. I used to go there all the time. 10 plus years ago, I would go to anger, and I had such an effective temper. I could go to anger, and I could be really nasty years and years and years ago. I could be really, really, really nasty. And of course, that was a reflection of my then vibration. I was really unhappy at that time. And now I don't go there. The nastiness, the bitterness, the screaming, the yelling, the threatening type of demeanor, I never allow myself to go to that space. And I realize that sometimes there are people that are like that, and then they think that because they're nice, they get walked on. And it's never that. It's always the victim mentality that you've got going on.
Ooh,
Because I was still nice to him. In my detuning of him, I was nice to him. When I had not yet detuned him, I was still nice to him, but firm. This is what we expect. And I even said to him, we are paying you a lot of money to get this right, and we want this to be done right. And so I could be very direct with him without going to that place of being nasty, because I don't think the nastiness really accomplishes a whole lot. I think it just interjects more negativity into a scenario. And I would much rather be sort of in the driver's seat of the relationship by treating him with kindness, but still being very clear on what the expectations are. And
Yes.
detuning work I did today, that interaction just went so well as a result of that. But if I'd gone in there angry, guns a blazing, I'm going to go in there and fight for what's right, and he's taking advantage of us and all of that stuff, that wouldn't have solved anything.
No, I was the same too. I was quick to anger, and I struggled with that when I became a parent, because I didn't want to ever just lash out at my children. So I tend to, then I stuff that anger down. And but now realizing through my detuning work that it was exactly me being in that victim vibration and calling those experiences in, where I would be kind and then I'd feel like I was taken advantage of. So then what? I get angry and nasty, right? But that never solved anything. And it just amazes me to this day, I will never tire of this, is when you go within and you do the work, you detune it, you raise your vibration, how your experiences change, and you do affect the outcome to be a much improved outcome. Like you said, David, yes, of course we need boundaries and firm. I mean, you're paying this gentleman to fix your house the way that you want it, what you've envisioned. And so there's boundaries, like cutting off the pyramids. It's like, well, why would I buy pyramid tiles if you're going to chop them off? So redo it. But I love the way you brought that, because you can have boundaries in kindness when your vibration is high.
Yeah, you can be kind and still firm,
Yes,
and very
exactly.
very direct. In fact, if you are fearless, you're going to be more direct, because anytime you're not direct, there's always an underlying fear that you're going to go too far, overstep, or upset someone. And I'm not fearing upsetting him, but I'm not looking to upset him either. And I
Yeah.
think that that's a nice balance to achieve. And I saw that play out today in real time
Yeah.
when he drove up and he was in a good mood and the whole crew was there, and the whole vibe of the place was just completely different. I felt like I was much more effective in getting everything that I wanted done. So over the next 4 days, I'll let you know, because he has a lot to do
Yeah.
in 4 days. And my plan is to move in a week, a little over a week. We're moving in, whether the house is complete on the inside or not. So it'll be interesting to, but I'm just ready to be there,
Oh, yes. I
ready to
know.
live there, be there full time, and not have to run back and forth, to
Yes.
watch everything and all that. I'm ready to get into my new office. I'm excited about that.
Mhm.
And I will turn that into a nice little studio and space for all things stream. But it's just so powerful when you start to detune toxic relationships, because
Yes.
that toxicity, you were a co-creator of it in the beginning. If you're experiencing it, you created it. Anything that we had with him was part of our creation. It's like the more we got frustrated, the more things we saw to be frustrated about. And I was really
Yeah.
going down the path last week of frustration with him. And Michael was way down the path of frustration with him. And I can't control Michael's vibration, of course, but I can control my relationship and interaction with him. And I realized that, gosh, I'm so frustrated. And here on Monday, I got more confirmation of frustration. Tuesday, I got yet even more. I need to do some detuning around this. And I did that. And that was the result of it. So that was another good confirmation that Tya works very, very, very well. So the
Yes.
whole practice of Tya is about that. It's about detuning any and everything that's a transgressor systematically. But sometimes, just like the example that I just provided, we get into these situations and we're sort of slipping into that get it done mode, and we don't think about shifting the energy or preparing the energy. I think is a really good way to look at that. And then we find ourselves, things are going wrong, we're in frustration, but life doesn't have to be that. And anytime we're angry, anytime we're judging, anytime we're thinking that we have to yell about something or something like that, it's always fear. Fear of being taken advantage of, fear of something being wrong, fear of wasting money, There's always a fear vibration present there. So as always, remove fear and judgment and get clarity.
Exactly.
So if there's
And I
no
think
fear
often too,
around it, then you have clarity.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And I think often, when we talk about these things, is I think back of when I was frustrated and I was acting in anger. And then what do you have to do? You have to spend time either going back and apologizing or making the situation correct. And then for me, I would that mind chatter of, oh, why did I do that? I should have done this, or I can't believe I said that. I shouldn't have said that. I didn't mean it. All those scenarios playing out in your head. And the best part to me, one of the best parts is when you figure this out, as you said, David, just being firm and being kind, but being clear. Then I never leave a conversation and then do the I shoulda, coulda, woulda, I wish I would have, or what. I leave a conversation feeling very good, very high five, because I knew that I was in my best clarity to that conversation, and really also hearing the other person. Like,
Right.
I feel like your contractor, or your worker, you also heard him, and he brought his people, and so that feeling validated that we appreciate your work, but these are the extra, these are the things that need to be fixed, but we appreciate your work. I know that vibration was there when you detuned the frustration, the
Yeah.
appreciation that this gentleman is
Yeah,
working
because
for you. And
there absolutely is plenty to appreciate, about
yeah.
getting a house that size turned around in 3 months, tearing out everything and starting over, getting materials right now. That's
Mhm.
been quite a manifestation that there's been very little material that we haven't been able to get our hands on in the right
Mhm.
timing. Materials are hard to come by in the building industry right now. So that's gone really, really well. So overall, I'm very, very happy with it. And I'm really kind of just going with the flow of everything. And Michael last night, because the pool needs some remodeling done, and I can't get a pool person to give me the time of day right now. It's Palm Springs, summer's coming. I'm sure they're all booked out. Um, we even had a pool person that did our last pool. They showed up. They completely ghosted me. No, no. And I was kind of getting a little like, why don't these people, want to take this job, even if it's, a few months out? I don't understand. There's plenty to be done. Michael parroted Tya back to me. He goes, it's just not the time for it. Don't worry about it.
Ooh,
We'll get
way to
done
go,
when it's
Michael.
done. I was like, oh, I like that. Yeah, now you're
Yeah.
speaking my language. I really, really like that. That's cool. And
Yeah.
that's why I go through my day now, just like everything. Like, how do I just completely let go of all expectations, move to trust, and just enjoy my day?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Isn't it a fabulous way to live?
Yeah,
I really, um, I've said it a million times. I think that I've got it down. Oh, I know this mindset practice. I've been in boot camp and I know the tools. And then you get out in life and it's like it shows you more. There's more to do and there's more work to do in the fact of detuning. But when you learn to appreciate that, like you did, ooh, that's frustration. Let me look at that and detune it. And then how magical the day can go in that simple practice. It's it's simple once you learn how to do it.
yeah.
It's a simple practice. And the
The
more
problem, the only problem, or I shouldn't call it a problem. I should say it's a challenge. The only challenge about the Taya practice is that we are moving through vibrational flow, and it's sort of easy for when things start going really well to just take it all for granted and sort of forget that we do need to be mindful of our vibration. We do need to be mindful of transgressors as they pop up. And there's nothing wrong with getting complacent and allowing your spin out. But I want to be more in that trust and appreciation mode most of the time.
Mhm.
So
And
that for me, it's just like playing a little. Now it's a game. Oh, if I'm knocked out of it, fine. I know how to get back in it. But it's like a little game every day of whatever I'm doing. It's how do I do this in trust and how do I do this in joy? And am I doing this right now because I'm inspired to do it, or am I doing it because I think I have to get it done?
mhm. I love that because my family, we grew up, we're big board game players. And then I did that with my kids. We played a lot of board games and trivia games. And so there was one game that they played when they were little called Candyland, and the kids loved it. And then there was another one that was similar. And so I always play the game of Thailand. That's my new game. And because I think when you bring the fun to it and the play to it, it does make it not work. It makes it an experience. And I'm seeing the evidence of that leveling up of, like you said, of really approaching everything of, well, let me look at this, like you said.
I love the game idea. We should do a game. It should be like a Monopoly, Tya Monopoly.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're in a spin out.
You were judgmental. Go back 2 spaces. Or go directly to Costco.
Right. Do not Costco. Do not collect $200.
Yeah, I love it.
I know we could have so much fun with it, because truly, like you said, the beginning stages when you're first learning the tools, it's like anything else in life. You start a new job, and you may have done that job 20 years in another place, but you have to learn this new place. And that's what Tya is. It's a new place for you if you've not done this mindset practice. So it takes work, and you have to take the tools out and play with them and see which one works for you. And
making it a game so that it's fun. And the part about a game is that you're striving to do better and better and better, but it's okay when you mess up, because when you mess up the game, it's just added, you go back a little bit, but you keep going. Yeah. So we're going to do that. We're going to mess up. We're going to fall out of alignment. We're going to move. This doesn't cure polarity. The stream says it all the time. We're not here to cure polarity, but we are here to operate differently in it. And it sounds so impossible until you get there to where you really do recognize your lower vibrational time is just that. And then let's reframe what that time is. That lower vibrational time is our time of inspiration.
Mm-hmm. I heard yesterday. Yeah.
I want you to share that. I like what you're about to share.
Yeah. I was just to say, I heard yesterday from the stream that the time we spend in a spin out is our choice, is of our choosing. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why that just hit me like an aha moment, because oftentimes when you are DTS or in a spin out, you kind of stay there a while, or at least I did. And I was I look at this, and I was pushing against it.
Polarity takes us down, and it's our choice to how we react to it, right?
Yeah.
In fact, I think this morning's message from the stream was about that.
Was it? Yeah. And look, you changed that frustration in a few minutes in your meditation. And it doesn't even have to be a meditation. At least for me, I don't sit in meditation. I know we've talked about this before, because I can't. Sitting still is quite difficult, especially for me trying to be in meditation, because then I find I'm fighting against it. So if I get outside and walk, or I do some yoga or stretching, as long as my body's moving, I can stay grounded, if that makes sense. And meditation comes easier for me. But even just taking those few deep breaths, just sitting a moment and taking those few deep breaths and allowing yourself to rise up your vibrational spiral versus trying to get there. When you're trying to get there, you don't get there.
More of an allowing than a striving or trying. You're right.
Yes. So I love that. And I love that it's our choice to stay in the toxic stew, for whatever you want to call it, or move out of it. And you can move out of it in an instant.
Yeah. The lower vibrational flow is not negative. It's just a lower vibration. Our reaction to it is what creates negativity. And so when we're down there and we're not feeling as energized or as good because we're down there, and we have transgressor energy, that can create triggers. A lot of times those transgressors that are present sort of come back to life when we're down there, and that little voice starts to take off and starts to gnaw at you. All of that is our creation. So therefore we have the power to change it. We can change vibrational flow to, I'm in a creative space, I'm in an expansive space, and now I'm in a more joyful space, and now I'm in a very joyful space. Now abundance is flowing. Now things are spinning out. And I realize when things are spinning out that I'm just creating bigger and better. You can make that your reaction to your vibrational flow, instead of, gosh, I'm DTS, it's terrible, I don't want to be down here, this is awful, I practice Tya, so I never have to do this. I intend to never go down my spiral again. I'm going to be up my spiral all the time. And that's just not true. We're not going to be up our spiral all the time. We're going to move through vibrational flow, but how we experience it is up to our belief system. And our belief system is heavily influenced by our transgressors. That's why in Tya we systematically detune transgressors. So if you're watching and you have a question, or I would like to just say hello, remember that you need to be commenting through, gosh, how is it on here? It's YouTube, right?
So yeah, you have to click on the YouTube logo. If you're in Patreon, you have to click on the YouTube logo at the bottom right of your screen. It brings you to YouTube. And then you can comment, see it. Because I got so lost in conversation.
Yeah,
there
say
we
hello.
Go. Hi,
Julie. So you're watching. Hi, Julie.
I got so lost in conversation.
Yeah, post your questions, and we'll be happy to answer that. If you have any questions about Tya, this is Tya Talk. The topic of the day is recognizing and detuning the things that we label as toxic. Including just anything that we judge really as a transgressor, whether you use the word toxic or not. I personally don't like the word, but it's a word. So if you use the word, it's fine. I was telling a story earlier about the contractor that's working on our house. I did some detuning work around him that I realized I needed to do. And I had a completely different interaction with him this morning in our morning meeting than I have been having all week. Every day I've been getting confirmation of my opinion of him. And I detuned this morning in meditation, and today's interaction was totally different. So this stuff works. Wow. We know once again, this detuning stuff really, really works. When you're not demonizing someone, you're not going to receive those, those qualities. And I definitely was manifesting sign after sign after sign of my judgment of him.
Yeah, I find it funny too, because we talk about in Tya, we talk about the pyramid, right? The wealth pyramid. And I find it funny because we're always like, oh, the tip top, the pyramid is the top of, in the matrix, the wealthy is at the top. And then you have your worker bees all down and holding up the base. So I find it interesting that your tiles were cut off at the top.
Yeah, they chopped off the top of my pyramids.
Now that's a clear sign right there.
You're right. I'll have to share the picture of how they did it. If it's on here, I'll share it with you. It's really fun.
That is funny. Well, I can't wait to see a picture of your newly installed pyramids with their tops on them.
Yes. Intact pyramid.
Intact
the top, the base won't be intact.
I love it. It's beautiful. I love your vision.
So I really want to get into just kind of to expand the conversation around how we encounter our vibrational flow, because that's everything. Your entire life is going to be made up of how you encounter vibrational flow, what you do with the vibration that you are moving through. Because we know that it's not static. We know we're not always manifesting the high vibrational space that we all like to be in. So acknowledging that how our suffering is created in our judgment of where we are vibrationally or what we're manifesting. So if we're detuning the judgment around that and finding joy and appreciation in our unwanted manifestations, understanding that there's value available in all of it. By universal design, we manifest unwanted things so that we can then use that unwanted thing to manifest something new, create something new. And in that new creation, we expand, and the universe expands via the collective expansion of the strands of consciousness, the infinite strands of consciousness. So I hope that makes sense to everyone, because that understanding that, if you understand that, you understand our reason for being, you understand how the entire universe was created and continues to expand. And the key to all this is remembering that we use the virtual vibrational spiral as a teaching tool. When you are below neutral on your spiral, you are no longer allowing your source being to be in charge or realized. And when you're not doing that, there is no new thought, there is no new creation, there is no new solution, there's no real expansion offered below neutral. So all we're doing below neutral is recycling.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the recycling might be effective, but we're not really creating new below neutral. When we get above neutral, then we're starting to have actual solutions flow in, new thought, new creation, new sparks of ideas. And we all know when we're in that space, things just solve themselves.
Yeah.
We don't have to try. We don't have to hammer. We don't have to look for it. When we get in that higher vibrational state of being, anything that is not our preference just sort of flows in and right back out. And the things that we are encountering that are really not our preference, that just gives us a platform from which to create something new. So starting to really, really look at every second of your life this way, because every second of your life can be that. Every second of your life is you experiencing vibrational flow and how you react to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, type in your questions, please. We'd love questions. But when you were talking about that, I'm a visual person. So as when I'm thinking about different stories and things, and when you talk about the spiral and I'm picturing it, circling down, thinking about people being in that holding pattern, if you will, like an airplane, right? You're in that holding pattern of waiting to land, and you just stay, you get stuck there in your vibrational spiral of, especially when you're down. Like you said, there's no new creation, there's no new inspiration. So you're just kind of repeating, recycling. I like how you said that, the old patterns. And so sometimes you're up a little bit and ooh, you got lucky that day and maybe, found something on sale, but eventually you're going to go right back to the old patterns until you learn how to control your vibrational spiral. Mm-hmm. I like that. I didn't think about it that way before. So about recycling and repeating your mindset, your beliefs. Yeah. Let's see. Julie said, that's when we get so many new insights and ideas when we meditate. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Love that, Julie.
Yeah, because that's source. So source is always there. It's just we're allowing our ego to drown it out. And when we stop allowing our ego to drown out source, then all of a sudden all of this amazing stuff just flows. So when you're stuck in a low vibe pattern, we call that a spin out, very often you are separating yourself from source for a prolonged period, and it's creating this sort of dullness. And you're in it when new inspiration isn't happening. And it's okay. There's no judgment about any way, any operating system, or where you are on your vibrational spiral or your spin outs or any of that stuff. We all have them. I'm the first to share when I have that going on, because that is part of the process. But Tya is about understanding the process on such a high level that even when you're in a spin out, you know what it is. You know it's a spin out. You know you're just moving through lower vibrational flow. That really changes a lot. That changes life, because you know that it's temporary. You know that you are a different being when you're in that vibration. You know that you probably shouldn't be creating. You shouldn't be doing a whole lot of anything other than really just sort of relaxing into it, appreciating it, and allowing that appreciation to take your vibration back up. Because we do want to be in high vibration. Mm-hmm. Tya is really about detuning all the things that drag our vibration down and allow us to return to our natural higher vibrational state of being, and thus return to our natural state of abundance. Because abundance is a natural state. No matter what happens in my life or what spinouts I create, I always come back to abundance. I always do. It's amazing, but it's really not, because it's natural. But compared to the way the matrix operates, just kind of letting go and letting abundance just flow in very unorthodox ways. The matrix is, oh no, you're not supposed to do that. You need to do this other thing. And I've spent a lifetime sort of thumbing my nose at the matrix. on a lot of topics. And I really am, now I'm moving more into really appreciating it for what it is, but not needing to be caught up in it at all. At all. I can't tell you, there's pop culture things that I used to be interested in that I could so care less about now. And like Hollywood type stuff and entertainment and all that sort of thing. I used to be so into that stuff, and now I just don't care.
I know.
It's just not interesting anymore. And you realize what a tool of the matrix that stuff is, because once you are moving yourself systematically out of the matrix, it's just not interesting anymore. It's not appealing anymore. So observing the matrix without judging it, without saying, oh, everybody else needs to do what I'm doing and everybody else needs to believe this. I'm just describing my own personal journey with Tya. And I hear other similar things from people that are practicing this, that the things that used to bother you or the things that used to entertain you or the things that used to really attract you just aren't the same as they used to be.
Yeah.
So, and to wrap up in the last few minutes, for those of you that are watching and for you, Carrie, who feels the difference in the vibration since the pandemic?
Oh, that's a good one. I certainly do. Especially, it was interesting to me. It's a very different vibration here in Belize on the island where I live to when I went back to the States. So in last September, I went back to Chicago. My son was getting married. And when I stepped off the airplane in Chicago, which I love the city, it's just a fabulous city. And I used to live there. I could feel the difference. There was such a fear-based vibration. And it was really intense. Like I felt it physically as well. And I could tell it took me about 2 days for me to continually be checking in with myself, which was a great wake-up call for me, because I got to Belize and I feel like I've kind of been coasting. Life is lovely here. People on this island tend to live in the now. They talk about the pandemic and how it affected the island, but they're also in such appreciation mode of being back to work. And I see the workers, they're still building where I live. And they're in such joy. They're whistling in the morning. There's one gentleman that sings. And sometimes I just sit out there and listen to him sing. It's in Spanish. And so it's helping me learn my Spanish again. But it's just so lovely to hear somebody at work singing and whistling, and they're laughing and they're talking. And it's such a different vibration than what I was used to. But when I went back to the States, I certainly noticed the fear. And I know it's on the mainland of Belize as well, but not so much on the island. So it really was a drastic polarity, so to speak, for me to witness personally, and gave me insight into what my family that lives there is feeling. And so we had a lovely discussion about that, because it really did. It affected everyone, right? People lost their jobs. Some are happy working from home, but a lot not. I know people that lost their homes, so yeah, it was a big wake-up call. And I feel like now, coming out the other end, I'm meeting so many people that are searching for a different way. Mm-hmm. That are realizing, things need to change. And the cool part to me is that
the change has to be from within. You're not going to change humanity. Humanity is always going to have its contrasts, and we see a lot of fear-based, mass fear-based thought playing out as manifestation right now. So it's very easy to get sucked into whatever the news media is trying to sell us. Mm-hmm. That is really the matrix. You need to be afraid of this. The boogeyman's coming. This thing's changing. Fear this, fear that. And you don't have to do any of that.
No,
we do get to walk around in our little spiritual bubble of reality, whatever you want to call it, and have that. I have yet to see evidence of the contrary, that when I create my bubble the way I want it to be, and focus on the things that I want to focus on and not what media is telling me to focus on, my life is really good.
I noticed
really
too.
well.
Yeah. And I noticed too, it's not just the news, commercials, everything is, it's got this fear-based, if you don't buy this, you're missing out.
Well, yeah, the matrix is a vibration. Again, it's not a cabal of people that are getting together and deciding to control most of humanity with a message. It really is a vibration that is it's gaining momentum, and what the stream says is it's fighting for life. We're questioning it, and the questioning it, the polarity of our environment causes some of us to realize, oh gosh, I can question it, but I need to appreciate it still, so that I'm not fueling it, while others are questioning it and fearing it and fueling it. Because if you question something and then you demonize it, you are giving it power. If you question something, whether it's for you or not, and realize it's just a preference to be made and that's it, and that you don't need to have it destroyed because you don't want to experience, therefore you don't want anyone else to experience it. That's very judgmental and very egocentric to believe that you are here to hold other people away from their contrasts. You're not. That's a big one for a lot of people, because people think that, that it's narcissistic to think that, gosh, I'm here to save humanity from itself. But if you really do appreciate the matrix, you see the good and the bad in it. And you can observe it without judging it, meaning that you can recognize it for what it is and not get into the judgment of it that actually draws you right back into it. So you're going to hear the stream talk a lot more about matrix. We talk about it all the time, and you're going to hear much, much more of that, because really that's what they came to talk about. They are coming through me to talk about the collective consciousness of humanity and the path out of the trappings of all of that, if you so choose. And that's what Tya is, and that's why Tya was created. And those of us that are practicing, we see it show up in our lives every single day. It's so magical to live life this way, where we get to sort of put our hands in the clay and say, okay, I had a spin out, and what did I do with it? Or I had a few days where I was DTS, or I was judging something, and I didn't even realize I was judging it until I kept seeing evidence of it. I started out this interaction talking about my contractor, and I was judging my contractor, and I kept getting daily affirmations from the universe that my judgment was correct, that I was seeing what I was manifesting in him, what I was focused on, his lack of attention to detail. And I saw a running theme of that popping up every single day until I detuned. So the detuning stuff is so very, very powerful. I hope that if you're watching these, you're employing that in your life. You're learning to systematically detune transgressors, because that's what Tya is all about. And you're realizing that you are the one that's creating your reality, every aspect of it. And anything that isn't flowing for you is an abundance block. And if you have an abundance block, there is a transgressor energy creating it that you can find appreciation for and detune and release the abundance block on any topic.
Yeah. I always say it's magical. And because it feels so magical, because we've been taught that it wasn't. And I think that's just so interesting. So Julie wants to know how you detuned your contractor.
I found appreciation for him. Appreciation for his perspective. I started off with the easy stuff, like, what does he do well? He's fast. He's fast. I've worked with other contractors that will come in and demo your house and then disappear for 2 weeks, and you're sort of married to them, so you're at their mercy to show back up. They do show up. They show up. They work quickly. I started focusing on the stuff that he's done well and that he's done right. And that sort of got the momentum flowing in a positive direction. And then once my vibe was higher around him, then I went into really looking at, okay, what is his perspective? If I really am thinking about how he's looking at this, showing up every day in this big house for these picky, gay guys that are doing all this stuff. And then, we've had some changes. I've thrown some curveballs his way for sure. And really appreciating his perspective. So yeah, number one, what is he doing well? Number two, what is his perspective? I love that Julie is doing this. And then
Yeah.
letting the vibration go up around all of that. And then number three, just appreciating what is.
Oh, that's brilliant, David.
And that's all I needed
Yeah,
to do. I did that, and
exactly.
I got a whole different version of him this morning when I showed up for our 7 a.m. meeting. And he had his whole crew there. I was walking around the house with my little orange tape, taping little dots on everything that needed to be addressed so I wouldn't forget anything. And it all got addressed. And he agreed to
Oh,
everything. And he says between now and Saturday, he's going to get everything caught up and ready. And then we're going to move in next week. So that detuning worked really well. I'll keep you posted, but it worked
yes.
really, really well. And so,
Yeah.
that
I love
was
Julie wrote that too, appreciating what is. Because even I was just thinking, if for our listeners out there, if you're trying to find something to appreciate, it's simpler than you think, because there is always something you can appreciate, even if it's that they wear nice shoes or they've got your favorite color eyes. I mean, there's always something to start one. And I love that 3 to 5 things appreciate.
start the momentum, kind of start the wheels turning, and then let momentum
Yes.
build. So you don't race to just appreciating what is. When you're still demonizing aspects of what he's done, you're in that space. You're kind of like, well, what the hell can I appreciate what is? But he's doing all these things wrong. So you don't start there. I started at what's easy to appreciate. Well, he did a beautiful job on one of the showers. Absolutely beautiful tile work. It just looks like a work of art. He's doing things quickly. He's showing up. Whatever it is. Then, what is his perspective in all of this? He wants to get done. He wants to get through it fast. He wants to get in and out. We're changing things and adding things as we go along. And his perspective is sort of, I think it's always wanting to plow through and get finished. Even though my perspective is, well, gosh, every time we add something, it adds money to the job. So what do you care, right? But he has other jobs that he wants to get done, and he's probably stretched in all of that. So having a little empathy and really seeing things from his perspective, the detuning process really is appreciation, and you gain appreciation through deep understanding of. When
And
you
it works
deeply
every
understand a transgressor, the judgment of it just dissipates, whether it's a
yeah,
person or an event or a circumstance. It doesn't matter.
yeah. It works every time.
Did I think? Yeah, I actually did a little bit of that. I didn't want to go too deep into that with him, but with him, I did say, when something looked good, I told him it looked good. Like he did something with the tile in one of the bathrooms. It was exactly what I wanted, and I told him that. I gave him praise for that. This is exactly what I wanted. Thank you. So yeah, I did that as well. So it's so easy to go into a situation where all you're focusing on is the negative, and I don't operate like that ever. But what I noticed this week, if you weren't listening at the very beginning, was that I was seeing him not be detail oriented, and I was focused on that. And then I kept getting daily affirmation of my perspective of him, daily confirmation of how that he wasn't detail oriented. And I realized, gosh, we're not going to stop this, because Michael and I this morning very early had a talk about him, and talking about maybe moving on to somebody else. And I just don't think that would be the smart thing to do right now, because there's a lot of construction going on. There's a lot of people buying houses. It's hard to get anybody's attention to do anything, and we have his attention. He's there. He's showing up. So if we wanted to fire him and start all over again with somebody else, we're way too deep into the project to do that. And I don't want to do that. It would just cost more money, take more time, and who knows that the next one would necessarily be any different, right? So why not repair the relationship that you've got and find appreciation and detune and fix it vibrationally so that you get your desired outcome. My desired outcome is I want to move into a mostly finished house next week. So yeah, that's the detuning process, and that's how you can operate any aspect of life. The finding appreciation detunes the transgressor. Releasing the transgressor releases the abundance block on any topic.
Yeah. Works every time. It's amazing, isn't it?
It's magic. We're teaching magic here. We're the
Ooh,
Magic Academy. Maybe we should change the name to Magic Academy or something like that.
I don't know.
Okay.
Get out your
All
wands.
right. Well, thank you for those of you that watch live. Thank you very much for your comments and just for being here live with us. If you're watching in the future, you can make comments on here if you have questions and things like that. We do see them in Patreon. Just make sure that you're doing it when you're on the live video, you need to be commenting through YouTube, but after the fact, you need to comment right there in Patreon. I know it's a little confusing, but that's just how this seems to work. Indeed. Thank you for watching. And Carrie, thank you as always for being my co-host and everything else that you do. Appreciate you very much. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.